Hi everybody, it's Kayla, and welcome back to Mostly Ghostly Season 2. So today, we're going to talk about some murderers. Now listen, first of all, this group thing, what does this tell you? I had them all come sit together by this fire as a group, and then just hang out together was the interaction that I clicked on, and guess who got left out of the chairs? The two Sims who have always been left out of the group. Interesting. I know. So we've kind of talked about this before, but this is the last episode that I'm going to be kind of playing through. Next episode is the last episode technically, but it's just going to be sort of a wrap up of the series, but it's going to be more machinima style and less of me just talking to you. And so today I want to do some debunking of your past theories. I spent an hour and a half about right now prior to recording this, just looking through all of your comments from the entire series. I picked out a bunch of theories I thought were kind of interesting. I just want to talk about them because, we got to prove you guys wrong and then talk about who did it and why. And so it's cool to talk about who you guys think it is. Most of you, I think the largest number of comments think that it's either Steven or Carson, which I find super weird because those two, I'm going to say it straight up, it was not either of them. And I always kind of felt like they were the two, I think the boyfriend's always kind of the most obvious killer, most obvious suspect. And it's it's the boyfriend, obviously. But I never thought it was Steven really. And people that thought it was Carson were really funny. The comments about Carson, there were some really legit theories about Carson too. Let's play. I'm gonna go find them on my computer really fast here. But for one of them was talking about how Carson, his last name is Keller, and that sounds like killer, so therefore it must be Carson, right? Or how, he's in the cop career or the detective career to try and, cover his tracks, and, he's trying to, I don't know, there's just lots of crazy, things like that. And I think the reason people think it's Carson is because he's so insignificant in the whole series. You don't really talk about Carson. We never really spent much time with him. He didn't even get his own episode, We kind of just lumped him with Lexi. And so, he's so insignificant that people are oh, it must be him, but it's not Carson. Let me tell that up straight right now, but I think it's so weird that people think that it's him. People, I don't know. I think that they're talking about how, he can hide the evidence and I don't know, all this stuff. But which is interesting. You guys are trying to blame him for it. Steven, too. It's all about, jealousy theories. A lot of them about the whole series have been jealousy theories. Oh, it was this girl because she's jealous of this person and she likes this person, so it was her, and this cheating and jealousy and all this rage and stuff, which was really funny because I feel like that's jealousy in real life is a motive for murder, so you guys are kind of spot on there. I don't know. That's an interesting motive for other Sims to do. I wanted to... Okay, let me do something really fast. I want to debunk another thing because you guys are just... there's a thing that keeps happening and it's so annoying. And so I want to tell you guys about it. I have seen some comments that are trying to judge who the killer is based on the appearance of the Sim in the trailer. And you guys, you can't do that because the reason that I had the person wearing the night costume is that you physically are unable to tell who it is. So people are oh, well, the person has darker hands, so it must be Lexi, right? Okay, let me just show you this really fast, okay? If we were to put on the night costume, I don't know where it is. Let's filter by costumes, okay? And so we put this on. You can't see her hands. You see how she has these gloves on? Yeah, you can't tell who it is based on this. And so there's no way that you guys will be able to know this based on how they look in the night costume because they all look the same in the night costume. If we go ahead and put her in it, you can't even tell their body shape. Other than a little bit of weight playing a role, you can't tell who's in the night costume. And so you guys just need to calm down, okay? I promise that you can't figure it out that way. I see so many comments that are oh, it must be this person. I saw their nail polish. But there's no nail polish. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, anyway, I must have seen at least 4 or 5 comments today while I was reading all of them. So, yikes, right? Yeah, so that was an interesting theory I've seen too. But that's a legitimate thing. You can't really tell who, from the video I've shown because it's so far away. But also, just to clarify, that's not a legitimate excuse for you blaming the murder on somebody, guys. Come on. Jeez, Wow, some people. But we're gonna get to the part where I talk about who killed them, and you guys are gonna be so shocked. Let me tell you something. Quick, side note. Until episode 6, I hadn't decided myself who the killer was going to be. I was trying to just let it play out and see who I sort of felt had the most motive because I was just sort of talking it through with myself about who the murderer was going to be. And so I needed to do some Let's Play stuff. And then I figured it out. Eventually, one of my friends actually had a really interesting theory that we ended up going with. So we talked about it a lot with her and kind of back and forth and stuff. But it's really good. And listen. It's very practical, it makes sense, and this Let's Play, the things that have happened throughout the episodes previously to this have kind of really thoroughly made it, they've set it in stone, okay? Just the way that people have kind of come out of the woodwork and developed into their own characters even beyond what I had imagined them to be like, has really kind of proven this theory to be true, which is interesting. And also, quick disclaimer, I think I told this before, but I don't remember if I did or not. The trailer sims that I used are not, they wasn't in this save. So anything that happened in the trailer, like, never actually happened, if you will. Like, it wasn't a completely different save. So the person that was in the night costume actually in the trailer was, like, random sim, like, because they were all teens. So it was, like, a random adult that I had placed in the house to watch over them. I say watch over so they could go on vacation by themselves. I didn't know if it was, like, any of them or not, but I just made sure, just in case. And also, other thing, what was I going to say here? Oh, yeah, so, like, there was that, and then, I didn't even kill Carolyn in that save. It was a pose that made her look dead. And somebody else was talking about, I remember in the comment earlier, about how they think that it's Vanessa because the killer was talking to himself, or herself, the person in the night costume was talking to themselves in the, like, trailer, and that was also a pose. And so, like, with Andrew's pose player, so that, there you go. You guys, I mean, interesting observations, but I mean, it's not about the game, it's about the story, so you gotta just think about it that way. I don't know, but I feel like this is an interesting day because it's 3:42 p.m. on the day that Carolyn was murdered, okay? So she was murdered late at night, let's make up a time. She was murdered at 1:37 a.m., okay? So she only has a few hours left to live, okay? And so we're going to see, like, who goes to bed first, kind of what happens in that situation. But, I mean, this is an interesting last day to be talking with all your friends at this unlit campfire, covered in bugs. We know that, obviously, I feel like Heather and Olivia and maybe Vanessa to an extent are all having a really horrible time. Like, they just don't like, and I feel like Steven, too. Like, none of these Sims like camping. So why are they out camping, you know? So, I mean, Carolyn's really persuasive in that sense. Like, she kind of forced them all to come camping. Oh, other theories I want to debunk really fast. There were some comments blaming the parents of these Sims, which was really funny to me. Like, you guys, first of all, I said in the past that it was one of these Sims. Like, guaranteed we have 5 suspects, it's one of them. But people are, like, talking about how they think it's Steven's mom or Carolyn's mom, Lexi's stepmom. The one about Carolyn's mom, that was interesting, how, because they thought that, like, she was being such a bad kid that her mom killed her. And you know what? I feel as though, here's my own, like, insight on this. If your teenage daughter is being rebellious, the way to get her to stop being rebellious is probably not to murder her while she's out with her friends. That's just me. But, like, you get what I'm saying? You know? And, poor Carson's still really upset. So Carson, I mean, this thing that happened in the last episode, which I did not have happen on purpose, kind of made him seem more guilty than he actually is. He's not the killer. I'll guarantee you guys that right now. I feel like he's incapable of murder. He just, not that he's too weak to do it, like, he could easily overtake Carolyn and kill her, I think. But I just don't think that he's capable of killing an innocent person, you know? And so that's sort of why he's joined the detective career, because he wants to stop people that do stuff like this. Like, I don't think he could do it himself. And even though he's really upset, I don't think that makes him feel as though he's able to kill someone over it, you know? Because, I mean, jealousy is a definite motive, but also, like, maybe we shouldn't kill people that we are mad at, you know? Like, let's just bake a cake made of rainbows and stuff and Mean Girls quotes, that thing. Yeah, moving on to some other comments. I have a list here that I kind of wrote them all down because I thought something really funny. Oh, here's a good theory. Are you ready for this one, you guys? Okay, so somebody was like, crazy theory, Heather had a baby and the baby traveled in the past and killed Carolyn after hearing of all the bad things she did to his mother, or her mother. That's interesting, and that's like a little bit too real for me. Like, that would just be so crazy to be like, oh, it was this random character that didn't exist prior to now. Like, that just ruins the whole series, you know, but interesting. I mean, mostly goes to season 3, am I right? Yeah, somebody else was like, it was the teacher. Remember in the first episode how we had that creepy teacher guy? Yeah, somebody thinks that it's him. It's not him. That would be interesting if it was, though. Okay, and somebody else said, plot twist, Kayla murdered her technically, which is true, but also I'm not the killer in this series. I mean, I did kill her, but it was not me. And somebody else was like, if this is Winston the butler or the Ghost Twins from Mostly Ghostly season 1, that first of all would be super funny, but I wish it was, but it was not. They were kind of unrelated to this series from the past season, but I mean, hey, if it were to be them, that would be really funny. And like, but it's not fair to people that didn't watch the first season, you know, to be like, oh yeah, it's these characters that you don't know, but you should know because you should have watched last season, which by the way is a whole bunch of mess. Like, the whole thing was about killing Nancy Landgrab. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on my playlist lists in my channel. It's from my old channel though. So I mean, you know, there's that. But also, that's interesting that you guys would bring that back up. I forgot about the same Winston, to be honest. I haven't played with him in a long time, but hey. again, I'm not here to judge. So just really interesting comments all around. I also got a lot of comments thinking that it was Vanessa, and I feel like she's the character that I talked about that really came out of her shell in the series. Like, we talked about her in the beginning, how she was really, like, this character that was really trying very hard to get involved in the group, and because she was always kind of like a forced outsider, she really wanted to be involved. And throughout the series, she's like forced herself to center stage, right? Like, she came in and she's like forming relationships with 4 people. Like, she's making herself be important in the series, and that, I think, is kind of representative of her personality. Is like, even before this whole thing happened, you know, like, she just is very, very self-conscious, very concerned with being a part of the series. Somebody was talking about how, like, she thinks that it's like people because, like Lexi and Vanessa, because they're like both insanely obsessed with Steven, and I think that's kind of there to an extent, but also I don't think that Vanessa really is. I mean, maybe she was at one point obsessed with Steven, but now she's got so many other options and, like, so much else going on that she doesn't need Steven. You know, she's got, like, better things to worry about, which is interesting because, I mean, it seemed like in the beginning it was going to be like that. I thought it was going to be too, until I got a chance to, like, actually play with her and see what was really going on there. So that was cool. There's some other comments, like, super huge, long, like, 3-paragraph essays, right, of you guys in these theories. And none of them were right, but they were funny, and I thought they were really interesting because one of them was sort of right, talking about, like, I'll get to that, but some of the other ones were not so right. Like, somebody had this whole, like, 3-paragraph thing about how Carson and Steven are secretly dating, and so they, like, orchestrated some murder to kill Carolyn so they could date and then not be destroyed by her and stuff, which I thought was really, I mean, that's interesting. That makes sense, right? Because she was dating both of them, and so maybe they were using her as some sort of beard, and then they wanted her to be, like, dead so they could date, and then they didn't end up actually dating because they didn't want to get caught and stuff, which is just, I mean, no, but also maybe, you know, that's interesting. I could have done that, but I didn't, so. He's still so angry looking. Look at him. This is really weird. Like, I wonder what his deal is. I mean, maybe he just really wants to date Carson, and he's jealous that he can't because he's dating other people, but now it's getting to be kind of late here. Oh, it's McGee from last part. His name is actually Aiden McGee. And he's like, hey, I heard you became friends with Carolyn Ridley. She's pretty cool. You're making yourself seem so suspicious, Aiden. Like, who? Okay. The night of her murder, he's texting us about how he thinks that she's cool. Maybe this is why it's taking the cops so long to solve the case, is that we've got these people, like, these old men that like to fish that are, like, all up involved in her life. Weird. Super weird, kind of scary and creepy, but we're gonna go home. We do know dead Carolyn, don't take that into account. That's just because this is the save that has a dead Carolyn and a live Carolyn in it. So I had to change her last name to Ridley, so I can actually have relationships mixed. Yeah, long story short, it's a user error, not a let's play error. But we're gonna go back to the campsite, do some bonfire-y type things just for the rest of the night. We don't have much to do, so let's bring Lamont. No, maybe not. You know, like, Lamont, how about not? Right? That was funny, am I right? Yeah. See, this is the last episode of the series, and you guys, I feel kind of sad. Like, this is season 2 coming to a close, you know? We've come so far since the beginning of this season and the last season and just my YouTube channel in general, so it's cool to see how it's kind of grown and changed and stuff and all that. Yeah. Let's not get too sappy, but, you know, that's interesting. So, other things, what else? What other theories do we have to debunk, kind of? We can talk about one of the other theories from these people with these paragraphs, right? So somebody with the, like, Carson and Steven is interesting. Somebody else was talking about, there's a lot of people that blame Vanessa, and I think that's justified. Like I said earlier, like, she's kind of forced herself to the center stage of the series, and that completely makes sense. I agree with you. You know what? I think that it's her, too. I mean, I don't know, man. But there's another comment from another person called Kylie, and she says, I think this one's really interesting. She goes, it's Olivia, but Vanessa made her do it. And you know what? I can totally see this one being true. Like, listen, let me hear me out, okay? So, we know that Olivia is very impressionable, right? Like, maybe she's less so now, but at least in high school, she was very easily manipulated, right? And she was very, I don't want to say, like, just shy. I don't want to call her weak because she's not weak. But, I mean, to an extent, she was definitely kind of weak. And so when people, like, would force her to do things, she'd probably kind of go along, right? And, oh, I don't want you to be tired. Oh, child. Oh, maybe she goes to bed first. Okay. You know what? Lexi's asleep. So, I mean, it wasn't Lexi. So all you guys with your, it's her, I recognize her nail polish, you're wrong, it's not Lexi. But let's go back to this. So we know that Olivia is, I mean, let's talk about this for a second. I mean, let's get kind of deep here, okay? Olivia's got some issues, you know? I mean, it's kind of a weird way to say it, but she's got some, like, serious anxiety. She's got some mental health problems. We know she's clinically insane, okay? Who are you? This woman is the actual murderer. Confirmed. It's this lady. I have headline effects off, but it's her. Episode over, the end. But you know what I'm talking about? Like, Olivia has these problems, and I think people don't take her seriously because of it. And I don't even think she knows really what's going on. And so it's hard for her to admit that it's happening to her. But you know what? That's okay. And we know, obviously, too, that Vanessa is extremely manipulative. What are you doing? Did she? Okay. But Vanessa is extremely manipulative, right? And so if she wanted something done, she could make someone do it for her. And she's really good about, like, fitting herself into a situation. Like, if she sees a need for something, she can become that and sort of meld into whatever she needs to be. She's kind of weird that way. She doesn't really have a personality of her own. She just, I mean, I don't want to call her, like, multiple personality or anything, because she's not. But, like, you know what I'm talking about? She can really be whatever she needs to be. She's a chameleon. There you go. That's a good explanation for it. And so, in this situation where she wants to become sort of like, what are they doing that for? They're, like, turning around and shaking their butt in front of the fire. I don't like it. I really don't like it. Okay, I'm talking about the Let's Play right now. And so, imagine this, okay? So, Vanessa hates Carolyn, and that's justified because, I mean, not to the extent that it goes, but she doesn't like Carolyn because Carolyn is mean to her, Carolyn is controlling, Carolyn is popular for a reason that Vanessa doesn't really understand. Like, she doesn't see how come Carolyn gets all this, like, fame and glory from all their, like, classmates, and Vanessa doesn't, just because she's from a different town, and, like, that's not fair to her. And so she despises Carolyn and sort of blames her for all of her problems, and thus she wants to eliminate Carolyn. And you know what? She does. Ultimately, the killer is in fact Vanessa, but she doesn't kill her. What she does is she sort of forces Olivia to kill Carolyn for her. So all of you guys that said that it was Olivia and Vanessa together, you all are right. I think there was there was nobody that said this, actually. Nobody guessed this, because it's kind of out there. It was the person that commented that comment that I just used was actually my friend that helped me plan the series. I forced her to comment so that she could help me debunk things, and then it would kind of blend in. Anyway, that was my seamless transition into this. The killer is, in fact, Olivia and Vanessa. And so imagine this, like, I mean, for a long time, Vanessa has been kind of talking in Olivia's ear, about how terrible Carolyn is. Like, look how she's cheating on her boyfriend, she's immoral, she's mean, she's doing all this bad stuff. And Olivia's sort of, like, hearing this and processing it, and, like, she's being painted a picture of Carolyn in this, like, very terrible light. Like, she's being made to view Carolyn as a horrible person, even though she's not the best of people, but she's not the kind of person that Olivia sees her as. Like, Olivia sees her as, like, the cause of all of the world's problems, not because of her own views of her, but because of what Vanessa has told her, and she's kind of been forced to feel this way, right? Which is really sad, because look at this girl's face. Like, she's not a murderer, you know? And so the plan, this is good screenies. So the plan between these two, at least the plan that Vanessa concocted, was that she would have her cousin, her poor, sweet, innocent, sick cousin, would poison Carolyn with some of those berries I talked about, which are actually, back out here somewhere in this area over behind the place. And the police found those, But what ended up happening was Olivia got super mad at Carolyn tonight, because imagine this. So Olivia has a lot of, like, anxiety issues, okay? And she's being forced in a situation right now. You see how she's standing away from the group? I didn't do this. She did it on her own, because this is true, where she's being forced to come on this camping trip that she doesn't want to come on. Like, she hates camping. She hates bugs. She hates fire. She's afraid of fire. She hates look at her. She's miserable. She hates all of this stuff, right? And Carolyn, this evil mastermind, forced her to come and do everything that she despises about the world in this camping trip. And you know what? That sort of sent Olivia over the edge. I don't blame her, right? This is a horrible experience for her. She hates this camping trip. And so she ends up whacking Carolyn over the head with something. Probably this lantern over here. Looks like it would do some good whacking damage over a person's head. And this time everyone's going to sleep, right? So Vanessa comes up and she sees what has happened here, and she realizes that they're going to get caught. Like, she doesn't want anyone to get in trouble for this. She just wants Carolyn to be gone. And so she definitely doesn't want Olivia to take the fall for her. Like, I mean, Vanessa's a bad person, and she's sort of mean and manipulative and, like, very self-absorbed, but she doesn't want her cousin to take the fall. Like, she kind of thinks of Olivia as, like, a little sister of hers, and so she doesn't want Olivia to get in huge trouble for this because she doesn't think it's Olivia's fault. And she knows that. And then she sees what's kind of happened, and she freaks out. And so she figures out some sort of scheme to cover all of their tracks, and she just sort of moves on from the thing like it never happened. And she kind of plays this role as, like, this really sad person who lost her close friend Carolyn, and she sort of, no one really suspects her because they always thought, they didn't know she didn't like Carolyn, that's for sure, because she's so good at, like, hiding it, you know? And so now, this is obviously in the past, but in the future, what we were talking about before, nobody thought that it was going to be sweet Olivia, or, I mean, Vanessa's kind of, you know, not the best of people, but they didn't think that it was, like, she had no motive in their minds for murder. Like, it always, people seem to blame people. I mean, you guys did it. You kind of portrayed everything that's happened here. You guys all thought that it was Steven and Carson because, I mean, they seem like these people that could be capable of something like this, even though these two don't. So that's interesting how this all kind of plays out, right? I feel so weird. I hope that I kind of explained that well enough. I'm not so good at doing that sometimes. I just sort of ramble a lot, but it's, I don't know. Interesting theory, right? Because none of you guys suspected that at all. There was a couple comments, like one of the longer ones was about how they thought that maybe it was Vanessa's insane jealousy that kind of caused her to, and obviously it was. It was, so you guys that kind of commented, Vanessa, you were all right, even though it wasn't actually Vanessa that did the killing. It was Olivia, but Vanessa did orchestrate things. So I feel like let's talk about modern day court cases, right? In a court, Olivia could plead insanity and then not end up in prison, even though she would go to, like, some mental institution where she kind of needs to be, honestly. She needs help. And so that would kind of work out well for her, whereas Vanessa would probably get in more trouble because she did force all of this to happen. She started all of this. She did it. And, like, now Carolyn is dead. Remember Carolyn's mom and her little sister? Yeah, Carolyn's mom has a dead child. Her little sister has no older sibling anymore. And even though her sister is kind of a brat and Carolyn was not the best of influences, like, it's still family and Carolyn is still dead, which is super really not good. But you know what? Vanessa, man. Vanessa's a murderer. And so is Olivia. But now I feel like this ruins everything, you guys, because Olivia's my favorite sim of all time. And you know, I think a lot of you guys, there were some comments in the, ooh, the stars are pretty. Oh, let's get some screenies of that. And then, like, the hands. There were some comments blaming Olivia, but the ones that were mostly like, I hope that it's Olivia because I love her so much, or like, I hope that it's not Olivia because I love her so much. And this girl is a whack job. Okay? And you know what? I talk about how she makes Carolyn out to be this horrible monster to Olivia, but I think that she sees her that way. Like, for a person like Vanessa, she's able to kind of, she has a lot of stuff going on, like problems obviously in her life, and she kind of extorts her own problems to make them seem worse than they actually are. And, I mean, even though, like, her boyfriend is cheating on her with Carolyn, but she kind of does make that out to be worse than it actually is. Like, I mean, she doesn't care about Carson that much, obviously. She's got a lot of other people to be seeing, you know? And so the fact that Carolyn is cheating on her with him, even though she's cheating on him too, like, it isn't that big of a deal, but she makes Carolyn out to be this horrible monster for doing this to her, and I think that it's not really her fault that she sees him that way, or sees anyone that way, you know? She likes to blame people for their problems, for her problems, and just, that's not good, but you know what? That's how she is. And wow, what a way to end the series. This is just a whole bunch of mess, and people said some comments too about how they didn't think that it was, like, see, okay, look at this. We've got, obviously, Lexi's already asleep. Carolyn's still up. Vanessa's still up. Olivia's still up. The rest of these, actually, this is interesting how all the Sims, but these two are starting to feel really not great. And it looks like she's going to head out to the bathroom. By the time she gets back, everyone's going to be asleep. And the only people that are awake are going to be these three that end up actually killing her. So I bet you, let's see this really fast. So it looks like, this is what I think is going to happen, like, just right now. It's a couple of seconds that we have left of the episode. So everyone's going to head off to the bathroom. By the time they get back, Carolyn is going to be dead. I mean, maybe they won't notice, though. They'll probably think that she went to sleep. But by the time that they get back, it's 2 a.m. Like I said, she got killed, like, right about now. By the time they get back, I mean, Vanessa is gone. Everyone's gone. They go to sleep, and then they wake up in the morning, discover that Carolyn has been murdered, and then chaos ensues. Fast forward 5 years, and you see what happened in the past few episodes. But the next episode is going to go back into the future, and we are going to talk about how these characters kind of go about their lives once they find out who the killer is, and sort of how that affects them. And then we're going to see the killer kind of, go turn themselves in, see how that plays out. Who is everyone? What are they doing with their butts? I hate that so much. Okay, you know what? I'm going to leave this episode here for you guys because this is interesting. So now I really need your comments, because in the past, I was interested to see your theories, but now, how do you guys feel about this ending? Did you, guess this at all and just not comment it? What did you think? Do you agree with it? Do you think that it's realistic? Do you think that it's interesting? Were you shocked to find out who the killer actually is? I don't know. Tell me down below in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe and do all those when you do things. And in case you didn't know, I post new videos every single day. So I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.